I'm Deborah Callahan, and we're so happy to have you join us tonight for our Knowledge is Power Hour. This is a place for people to learn about their overall health, share insights as we grow together, use our gifts and our talents to make a difference in this world, especially right now, and just to be with positive people. And I think that we're creating quite a group here. It's really exciting and lots of positive energy going on here. So Liz, Adrian, and I truly feel we're creating a movement that can impact many lives. And each week we encourage all of you to invite others to share in this powerful health group with us. A little bit about me. I've been helping people restore and optimize their health for over 30 years. My degrees are in nutrition and dietetics, exercise physiology, and cardiac rehabilitation. I've had the privilege of working with some of the top medical minds in the world who believe as I believe, and that's that the body has the ability to heal itself when given the proper nutrients and tools. And my passion is definitely servant driven. I love helping people, being able to share what I've learned with others to help them transform or to help them, and just joining in this powerful health mission that we're creating. This feeds my soul. So now I want to introduce you to my health and business partner and wonderful friend, Adrian Gerard. Go for it, Adrian.
Thanks, Deb. So I am Adrian Gerard, and I've been a registered nurse for close to 35 years. I also have a master's in holistic nutrition, and I've been what I like to call a health and wellness missionary. And so my passion is to help people become as healthy as possible, as naturally as possible, whenever that is possible, and rediscover their optimal health. So it's a pleasure for me to be here with all of you on the Zoom call tonight, and I'd like to turn you over now to my friend and business partner as well, Liz Geeslin.
Oh, thank you, Adrian. Well, this is just a delight for me to be a part of this wonderful group and be in business partnership with both Deborah and Adrian. And most of you, of course, know my story. I was a professional horse trainer for 35 years. And as I was approaching the age of 50, decided really felt I had more to give to the world than just being an equine professional. So I morphed into a personal chef, built my business around healthy home cooking, and then things just took another life of their own. I became much more focused the more educated I got on holistic nutrition and holistic ways of healing, that this now is really such a focus of mine. And I'm just delighted to be a part of this mission that we're on. So it is my pleasure now to introduce a wonderful woman who actually I met her through another friend who I had introduced to come to one of our Knowledge is Power. And that particular friend wasn't able to make it, but she said, could I invite my Pilates instructor? I said, absolutely. So Julie joined in on our Knowledge is Power. We had a Zoom afterwards, and I thought she has some real gifts to give to us. And I asked her if she would be a guest speaker. So I am so delighted and honored to have Julie Lazaraton. Did I get it right, Julie?
That was pretty darn close.
Yeah. Pretty darn close.
Good job.
Very good. Well, Julie, welcome, and please share your gifts with us tonight.
Well, thank you, and I'm so excited to be here with you tonight. This is my first time to really speak during a Zoom meeting, so bear with me. If you can't hear, somehow let me know. But I'm here tonight to kind of share some of my story and mostly talk about reflexology. But I need to share with you how I got to reflexology. We all have those moments in our lives that are very pivotal, that change the whole direction that our life is going. So prior to October 1999, I was headed toward a career in fundraising and development. And I thought that was where I was supposed to be. It was what I'd been learning and working in. And then one fateful day happened in October of 1999. I had a favorite stable I loved to ride horses at down in Brown County, Indiana, which is a beautiful wooded area. And I loved this stable because they let you do more than just walk and trot the horses. So that day I'd gone riding with a friend, and we get in the first canter and I break a stirrup, and I stayed on the horse, thankfully. And then our teenage guide had to keep things moving. that day. So I said, what's the best thing for us to do so we can keep moving? Because there were a lot of groups of people riding at the stable that day. And she said, well, let's switch horses. So she gets me on her horse, and I'm noticing that the horse is getting more and more nervous. And she gets on the horse I was on, and she then turns around right before we start on the trail again and says, oh, by the way, I'm the only one that's ever ridden that horse. And I thought, oh, great. And I had 50 pounds on her. So that horse knew I was not its rider. So we keep going, and we're getting ready to do the last canter, and we're getting ready to go uphill. And we're picking up speed and picking up speed. And the next thing I know, the horse in front of me stops dead in its tracks. And my horse stopped dead in its tracks, put its head down, so it didn't rear. And so I went flying up over the neck of the horse. And 2 sentences went through my head that day. Protect your head and neck, tuck and roll. And I had the presence of mind to do that. So I actually shifted this way. If I hadn't, I'd probably landed head, neck, and shoulders, and there's every likelihood I would not be here today. As it turned out, I landed on my right hip. Hurt a lot. And so I started to try to stand up afterwards, going, well, of course it hurt you. It just hit the ground really hard. And I about blacked out. Speeding forward, they finally got an ambulance to me, and I got to have a lovely 5-day stay in Bloomington Hospital. They took lots of x-rays, and they found that I'd broken my pelvic girdle in 2 places, an inch apart, and luckily the bones stayed in place. And then I had a vertical fracture through my sacral vertebra on the left side. And I was temporarily paralyzed from the waist down. So life started to be a little overwhelming that day. And the orthopedic surgeon was kind enough to say, you know what, we've done enough for tonight. We really think you broke and shattered your right hip, but we can't find anything tonight. We're going to look again tomorrow morning. And that night was the first night that I ever experienced healing that was beyond medical explanation. So I had a friend that was a massage therapist that stopped by the hospital that night. She said, Julie, I want you to see healing energy going through that hip every time you wake up tonight. And so it probably went a little bit like this. Wake up, click the morphine, because, you know, there was a lot of pain. And then I would visualize healing energy through my hip. And that, I couldn't begin to tell you how many times that happened that night. But the next morning they came and got me. And they said, you know, none of my family was there yet. And they said, if we find the break, which we think we will, in your right hip, you'll go immediately to surgery. We'll let any family know that comes in. So they take 11 more x-rays of my right hip. And the guy comes out and he shakes his head and he goes, I can't believe it. With the force that went through your body and with your other breaks, by all rights, that hip should be in pieces. And you should be going to surgery right now. But we can't find one fracture in it. And that day and that night changed my life. And I realized that I wanted to do something more than fundraising and development. Not that there aren't worthy organizations out there. But I happened to be able to get a job at the YMCA. And it was a unique position, but during my time there, I had the opportunity to train as a Pilates instructor. And the reason that was important is because for the 2 years after the accident, before I had that training, I was slipping a disc probably 6 to 8 times a year. It was an excruciating pain. And, you know, was starting to wonder at age 33, how am I going to move forward? So first I found Pilates, and that changed my life, and that helps keep me moving each and every day. So that is something that I continue. Then my travels led me to Georgetown Health Food Store, and I had the wonderful opportunity to learn a lot about vitamins and supplements and dietary changes that can help the body. And so I started implementing those. And one day I realized I just really wanted to be able to do something for people, something that was hands-on. But as I looked at my options, I found massage and found a couple other things, and I just thought, those just don't feel right. And one day a coworker said to me, Julie, what do you think about reflexology? And I said, I don't know what that is. What is that? and she was a reflexologist. And so she shared with me what it, we did a couple sessions together. My feet and legs felt wonderful. And so began my interest in doing reflexology. So long and short of things, reflexology is the stimulation of the nerve endings in the bottom of the feet that helps shift the body from sympathetic nervous system or stress nervous system to parasympathetic nervous system or the more relaxed nervous system. And when we are in that parasympathetic nervous system, our body can work more normally the way it was designed to. When we're in our stress nervous system, it's like the body has 2, if not 3 jobs to do. Maintain plus deal with all of the issues that are being created through the stress. So I finally found it. And people, one of the first questions people would ask me is like, ew, how could you want to work with feet? I have to tell you that one didn't bother me. But 2, I found that when people offer their feet up, they are offering up the most vulnerable part. Many people are very sensitive about their feet and allowing their feet to be seen or touched by other people. And there's something really special that happens when people offer their feet up to be worked on. And so from there, I just knew this was what I wanted to do. The other thing that I had to determine was, massage is very physical. And I'll explain a little bit how reflexology and massage are different in just a few moments. But the other thing I had to consider were my hands. Up until this point, I was a church musician for many decades, played the piano every Sunday. And one of my concerns was, how can I do something with my hands and not create situations down the road of arthritis and issues that can occur in the hands? And so I explored that aspect too, with the instructor. And I said, what about my hands? How concerned should I be? And how long can I do reflexology? And she said, that's one of the beauties of reflexology. It does not take a heavy, heavy touch. So you can really preserve your hands. But that was very much a concern. So I didn't know about reflexology until 2012. But guess what? It has a long-standing history. So if you've never heard of reflexology, I want to share a little bit about where it comes from, how it developed. And I think that's important because so many people still don't know that reflexology exists out there. And so I am hopeful that in sharing tonight that I will encourage you to find somebody local who does reflexology, that you'll be comfortable knowing how to approach them, what questions to ask. And I hope that you'll want to make it part of your wellness, or at least give it a try at some point. So a lot of people mistakenly think that reflexology comes from traditional Chinese medicine. And I say mistakenly because it does have a history in traditional Chinese medicine that goes back to about 4,000 years ago. But 5,000 years ago, we have actually found evidence in Egyptian tombs, one being a physician, I'm going to try to say his name, Ankh-Mahor. His tomb dates back to 2300 BC. And in his tomb, when it was unearthed, they found pictographs of several things: childbirth, dentistry, pharmacology, embalming, and guess what? Reflexology. So we actually can trace it back to the Egyptian culture that's over 5,000 years. So reflexology is over 5,000 years old as a modality. And I just find that exciting and a little unfortunate that I didn't know about it before 2012. So they do know that it was in India in about 4,000 years ago. So they think it went from Egypt to India, then to China, and then from China and also from Egypt, there were distributions into Europe. So it has an ancient timeline with it. I'm going to jump forward a couple hundred years. In 1771, in the German culture, Johann August Unser started to use the word reflex to reference motor reactions that were utilized in that time. At about 1800s, acupuncture was introduced to Britain, and the term reflex was starting to be used by the medical community. So, it's building reputation. I'm going to jump forward again to 1930, when Sir Charles Sherrington won a Nobel Prize for proving that the intensity, the electrical intensity into a nerve impulse depends on the size of the nerve, not the amount of pressure. And that's where it became known that light pressure can stimulate a nerve. You don't have to put a heavy pressure. And that's why you can preserve your hands if you were doing reflexology, because you're not doing the same level of intensity as massage. Skipping forward, in 1970s, the Rehabilitation Center for Neurological Development in Piqua, Ohio, adopted reflexology to help with brain damage in their patients. And then in 1980s, that's when standardization started to happen in the reflexology realm, and several international and national organizations started building a certain level of consistency throughout the industry. But I want to stop at about the 1930s, because today's reflexology session is actually the invention or creation of Eunice Ingham. She was born in 1889 in South Dakota. And in the 1930s, she happened to be working with a doctor who had a colleague that had invented zone therapy. Now, you might still hear about zone therapy in today. As a matter of fact, there's a practitioner in my building that does zone therapy. And basically, zone therapy means you're working zones of certain areas of the body to kind of hit everything. It's kind of like the shotgun approach, if you will, to getting your nerve endings stimulated. But Eunice Ingham took the information that Dr. Fitzgerald created through zone therapy, and she added a lot more research and really identified reflexology points. And she created the technique called thumb walking. So if you go into a reflexology appointment, you are going to experience thumb walking. And that is basically where you take the thumb and you just wiggle it up a zone. And so that is used, it's just from this joint up. And it's called thumb walking, and it's what helped create reflexology to be what it is today. So that leads me to, what is it today? A lot of people say, oh, you do foot massage, right? Well, the answer is no. Because while they achieve similar results, the approach is different. So massage relaxes the muscle through deep pressure. Some people like very deep tissue massage. And so in getting the muscle to relax, that gets the body to relax, which then helps somebody shift into the parasympathetic nervous system, that relaxed nervous system. Reflexology stimulates nerve endings. So while massage is going to be something like this with a lot of movement, reflexology is going to be something very similar with a press. Or in the case, we've often seen this one where you grab front and back and rotate and put pressure. And that is actually when you get in right here to this thumb joint where you can feel the bone here and come into that bone crevice here and press, that's actually the kidney reflex for your left side of your body. I'm doing my left hand right now, might look opposite. And so reflexology is pressure, and it's stimulating that nerve ending as opposed to the muscle. So that's one of the differences of massage versus reflexology. The other thing is a massage therapist might work on a trouble spot, and that might be all they have time to work on. But a reflexology is going to work on both feet or both hands or both ears to make sure that there is balance. And reflexology helps bring what we call homeostasis, which is a level of balance, or in a simplistic explanation, it's bringing balance to the systems of the body. That's important because when we think about healing, we need to be in that more relaxed state. We need balance in the systems of the body so that they can focus on what they were designed to focus on, as opposed to having to focus on your stress response in addition. So that is another difference between reflexology and massage. We would make sure that there is balance and equal work on both feet or both hands or both ears. One nice thing about reflexology is that you don't have to take your clothes off. And some people, they get really nervous and concerned about that. So the most people are taking off is their socks and shoes and rolling their pant legs up to about where you would if you were going to wade in the ocean. And that's it. That's all. And so for a lot of people who are very concerned about that, this is a way to get a type of relaxation treatment without having to get into a completely uncomfortable situation for some. Now, other people are very comfortable with massage. It's really about what you're comfortable with. And I have several people who do reflexology and massage. Mm-hmm. But I have found that some people just find a sense of comfort in knowing that all they take off are their shoes and socks. So the other thing I want to point out before I go on any further is a lot of times people think, because we talk about health issues or something like neuropathy in the feet, reflexology can be very beneficial. But what I found over time is that a lot of people think that they have to have a chronic illness or some sort of health issue before reflexology becomes appropriate. But what I would say to you is reflexology helps you reduce stress. And the last statistic I heard was that 75 to 90% of all doctors' visits are a result of stress. Mm-hmm. And about 60% of health issues are a result of stress. So if we are incorporating a therapy, whether it be massage, or in my case, I love doing reflexology, to help people make that shift and step away from stress in their life for a little while, then we are helping them long-term manage their stress, which in turn will long-term manage and help manage their health. So I just want to point out, you don't have to have a chronic health issue. You don't have to have an illness. You can just incorporate it as part of your wellness program. Really keep that in mind, because the benefits of reflexology are pretty amazing. So reflexology will increase your circulation. So I do a lot of work on in a senior community. I'm getting back to that well, we're not really post-COVID, but post-shutdown of COVID here in Indiana. I'm now getting ready to get back to working with seniors. And one of the beauties is that a 30-minute reflexology session can be as stimulating to the circulatory system as a 30-minute walk. And so it helps it helps that circulation, helps improve oxygen to the muscles and the body, and it helps get nutrients to the cells. It can also help with vascular return, which it helps stimulate so that the blood moves through the body much better. It helps calm, as I've said, it helps calm the nervous system. So it really does help a person switch from sympathetic, stressed out, to parasympathetic, relaxed. And I have to tell you, I did a session on someone one time. I did about a 40-minute session. And I use what's called a zero gravity chair. It looks like a overgrown lawn chair. Tilts back and it puts the feet above the heart. So that's one reason I like to use it. But it's called zero gravity because there's no greater pull on any one vertebra over the other while you're laying in it. So the back can really relax. So I had done this. I had worked on her for about 40 minutes, and I set her up. And had I not known the difference, her eyes just would blast open. I was like, she cannot get behind the wheel of a car right now. I cannot responsibly let her drive. So we just sat there and talked, and it took about 15 minutes before the glassiness left. And I thought, okay, I'll let you have your car keys now. It really, some people just are so open to it that it just really relaxes them. And she told me after that she had energy for like 5 days straight in a way she hadn't had for a while. So that was really wonderful. One thing that I caution people, especially if you're a first-time reflexology person, I usually encourage you toward a 40 to 45-minute appointment. And the reason is because if you're not used to reflexology, it can be highly detoxifying in the body. And so I will usually shy people away from 60 minutes until they've had a couple sessions under their belt. And then if they want to try that, I'll move them forward. Other practitioners are going to do what they feel comfortable with. But I do that because I do have one lady who comes to me who says, nope, I want an hour because I want to detox. And I think most of you probably, if you've been involved in Modexus for a while, you probably understand what a detox is. But for anyone new tonight, detoxification means that the body begins to let go of things. So it can present itself as mild fatigue. You could also have a lot of energy. That's almost a detoxification too. Your body's prepping up. You might have a change in sleep patterns. Perspiration and skin outbreaks might be a part of your detoxification system and symptoms. You might have an increase in bowel habits with frequency and a change in how they look, and that can be a detoxification symptom. You might have a lot of mucus leave your sinuses or your colon, and that can be a detoxification symptom. Sometimes an old injury or an old issue will show up again because the body is in this, let's get rid of everything. And so something that you've thought you've dealt with might come up again and need to exit your body in a more complete way. And then there can be a decrease in inflammation, pain, or swelling for some people, and that is also a detoxification symptom. But one that maybe you don't think about with detoxification is emotional releases. So there are times when, in working with people, as their body is letting go during the session or sometimes afterwards, people might have a very emotional response happen. And those can be a little disorienting, but they usually pass quickly. And a lot of times it's just stuff you've been ready to let go of that finally comes out. Now with reflexology, I always encourage people that if they do a longer session, to make sure that they drink water the same way they would after a full body massage, because even though we're not doing muscles, even though we're doing nervous system, there can still be that full detoxification, and their body needs water to get things to move along. So reflexology has a lot of impact in the body. Just real quickly, there are a couple of things. There are times when reflexology is not appropriate, and that is whenever there's severe swelling, unusually bad varicose veins, recent fractures or surgery. And the reason there is because of the concern that by stimulating the circulatory system, you might stimulate a blood clot. So I actually have a policy. I don't work on anyone who's had surgery within 30 days. I stick to that pretty hardcore. You don't want to work on their feet if they have gout or infection, because that can spread it. If somebody has an organ transplant, then they have to have a physician's approval. And then last but not least, I will not work on anyone who is pregnant. And the reason is because the level of stimulation through a reflexology appointment can be enough to cause the body to look at the fetus as something that needs to be detoxed. And so I would say you would be hard pressed to find a reflexologist that would actually work on your feet if you were expecting, until maybe weeks 8 months and 8.5 months or more. Then maybe you might find somebody that will do some of that work. But as a reflexologist, it is my, while at certain points in history, it was used to diagnose. Now, it is not used to diagnose a condition. We don't predict illness based on the sensitivity of reflex points. So please know if you come in and you're like, well, Julie, what does that mean? If that's sensitive, I'll probably say, well, we'll just have to keep an eye on that. It just needs some extra work. And if it keeps happening, then I'd be like, have a conversation with your doctor. We don't use it to treat specific conditions or illnesses. And most of us stay clear of any sort of comment on medication or anything like that. So real quickly, I want to point out, here it is. So I've been talking to you about feet, and with COVID-19, feet is pretty much all I'm working on at this point in time because of the need to keep the socially distanced as possible. So I have done work on hands, ears, and I have a facial reflexology session that's feet and upper body and through the head. But right now with COVID-19, I'm keeping it to just feet. But one of the interesting things, I know that it's hard to see what the reflex points are, but what I really want to point out to you is how when you put the feet, bottom of your feet together, you are really looking at the head of your toes. Your toes represent the head area on your body. Here in the mid, just right at the ball of the foot, is your upper torso. So it'd be like your lungs and your heart area. Here in the center is the lower abdominal area. So your liver, your digestion, different things like that. And then here at the bottom would be lower body. So your pelvic girdle and your legs and your feet and ankles. And so we find reflex points, and you can actually go online and Google reflex sheets and charts, and most of them are going to be pretty similar. And if you want to learn more, you can print that off and kind of look at that a little more carefully. One thing, two more things, and then I'll open it up to questions. I want you to kind of know what to expect if you would find a reflexologist, if you decide tonight that, hey, I think I'd like to try that. You're going to want to ask your reflexologist how much training they have, and you know, and decide if you feel comfortable with that. I did a 200-hour training certification. You're going to find that they'll either work with a massage table or a zero gravity table, like or chairs, like I work with. Don't be offended when they go ahead and wash your feet, because that is just part of it. The feet hold some of the highest level of bacteria in your body. So they are going to wash your feet. Don't be offended by that. It's just part of the process. And then, you know, some people like to talk, some people like to be quiet. So really that's your call. With today's environment, they're going to probably have you sign a waiver plus a COVID-19 waiver. Most places are doing that. And then you have to decide what you like about your practitioner. There's some people that they like the spa experience. And you're going to get something very consistent there. I like more of the healing process. So if I pick up something that needs extra attention, then I'm going to give it that extra attention. So I really focus more on what does this person in front of me need today, and how long of an appointment do they need today. and what's going to be in their best interest. So you have practitioners that function differently. Some are going to give you more of a spa experience where if you sign up for a 30-minute reflexology, it's exactly the same every single time. Other practitioners are going to rope in some of their healing that they do that makes them a little bit different. So you'll have to decide which one you like. And then I do sometimes give homework to my clients, and that might sound a little strange, but there are a couple ways that you can do self-reflexology and not really know each and every reflex point. So I'm going to show you 3 different tools that I recommend. One is your very simple golf ball. And this can work as long as it has divots. You can even use a used golf ball if you have access to it. Second is a dryer ball that you can find in almost any store. So those are easy to find, and I like them because they're a little bit more spiky and pressy than a golf ball. And last but not least is what's called a reflexology tool. And this is probably a more traditional tool. If you'll notice, it's in to the center. So you would put this on the floor, and you could take your heel of your foot and roll it on the bottom of your foot and just roll it back and forth. You can even get the foot to go on the side and on the other side. And that's going to work your foot and your reflexes, even if you don't know what they are. You can also use this in your hands. I tend to like the ball for my hands because you can put as much pressure as I want on it. So that would be a way that you do almost self-reflexology. You can even use the ball or the golf ball on the floor and rub the bottom of your foot on it. And that way you get to control how much pressure is on it. And that is one way I will often have clients who maybe have some chronic issues going on. In between appointments, I ask them to use something like this to help work their reflexes until their next appointment. So I am open to questions at this point in time.
I have a question.
Okay.
I've only done it once. I had foot reflexology, and I have to tell you, it was pretty painful. Is it supposed to be?
Actually, I tell my clients it does not have to hurt. And it shouldn't really hurt. Now, you might have some sensitive reflexes that might give you the quick, oh, I feel that. But that's the beauty of the gentleman that figured out that it only takes a feather light touch to stimulate the nerve ending. So you can accomplish everything without causing pain in the person's foot or hands. So sorry that happened, because no.
Quite a few years ago, but after that, I just never thought about reflexology again because it was very painful. And I was told when I went in, the person told me that it would be painful. So just.
Sorry about that. No, it does not have to be painful. It can actually be a very, very light touch. And some people think that it should be really heavy like foot massage, but no.
Yeah.
No pain.
Good. Well, one thing that I want to say, Julie, thank you, first of all. That was wonderful because I really knew nothing about reflexology. I mean, I've heard the word. I knew it had something to do with your feet or your hands, and that's about it, right? Like I said, this is night school for me. So, but what I think is so true that I'm finding out, especially as I get older, is just like what you said, is not to wait till you have something chronic that's happening to address and do everything we can for keeping our bodies in good optimal health, to address them, proper nutrition, doing your reflexology, massage, things like that are just going to help take care of this incredible vehicle that we've been blessed with. I mean, they're incredible machines when you think about what we put them through. And I really, really appreciated hearing that, because I know for me, when I look back and think of the way I lived when I was in my 20s or 30s, it's I can't believe I'm here, So
Well, I'm glad you are here.
So it really, I am just so, instead of waiting till you have something that needs something fixed, is let's do what we can to keep everything as good as we can. Yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
Yes, Deb? Oh, here. Oh, sorry.
I heard that you mentioned, Julie, that something about helping with brain issues with reflexology. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, basically in the 1970s, this organization implemented it for people with brain damage that had maybe suffered an accident, stroke, or something to that effect. The theory is that you're stimulating the nerve endings. So you're connecting and creating that neural pathway back to the brain, so the brain can then respond. So it's kind of like in my accident when I was temporarily paralyzed. My body from the waist down forgot everything, and the connection between my brain and the lower body was disrupted. So through reflexology, the theory and the thought is that you're stimulating the nerve endings, so you're reconnecting the neural pathways from the brain to the bottom of your body.
Okay, and do you know if they've done any research with brain trauma with scar tissue by any chance, and if it would help it?
I don't know if they have done like research where there would be research to show. I do know they have done a lot of research with reflexology and cancer, but I don't know about with the brain injury. And that organization, let me give you the name. I assume that they still exist. The Rehabilitation Center for Neurological Development in Pequot, Ohio. So I can either send that to you. I don't know if they still exist or not, but in the 70s, they were one of the first organizations to implement that because of brain injury. But I don't know about when you add scar tissue in, because that is a very different setting. And the question would become, I guess I would be inclined to say that reflexology might not break up scar tissue.
Yeah, I just was knowing that, I've read that you can have scar tissue and form neural pathways around the scar tissue. That's why I was wondering if there was any work with that. So thank you.
I don't know. That would be interesting. I'll try to look into that and get back with you on that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Lisa?
Hi there. Hey, I did massage therapy for 5 years and did some full body and some cranial. I had to work on grounding myself. Do you do that same as a practitioner, ground yourself so that you don't take on the energy and the exchange between those that you're working on with your reflexology and yourself?
Yes. And so that tells me that you were probably a highly empathic person. And I tend to be highly empathic as well. And that can cause some problems. So yes, I do ground before I start on someone, because it just helps me to kind of try to have that objectivity, especially if they have any emotional releases during the session.
Right. You need to protect yourself because you're exchanging the energy and it gets in the room also.
Yeah. So I do clear energy and things like that before and after appointment, and in myself and at the end of the day too, because yes, when you work that closely in someone's energy, even though you're doing something physical, the energy exchange, it can be rather intense at times.
Mm-hmm.
So
interesting. I'm curious, in the group here, has anybody had reflexology before? Monica, I was wondering, I was thinking about you through this whole time, wondering if you've had it before.
I had it. It's been a long, long time now. And actually it was at a resort in Mexico. And it was part of a package that came with when we signed up, and we got massage, reflexology, manis, pedis. And it was the first time I was ever introduced to it. But they did Julie use the chair you were describing, the anti-gravity. My experience with it, I thought it was fascinating. And at that time, if I'm remembering correctly, though, they could, like, I don't know if this is possible, but this is just what I remember them doing, like focusing on a part of your foot and being able to tell you where an exact pain was in your back or another part of your body. And I remember knowing that they were right in exactly what they said, and wondering that if they knew that because of the energy, the nerves, or what they would feel.
So that's a fine line to walk.
Okay, and that could be just, well, I don't know.
No.
I'm just saying that that's one thing I do remember, other than the fact that it was a very pleasant experience.
You can tell a lot from reflexes, but where it gets you in trouble here in the States is that that is a fine line and could be considered practicing medicine without a license. You say, I pressed this happened, and this is in this area of your back or your body. And then it's just a real fine line. So you just have to be careful how, what you share. And at one point in time, like I said, hundreds of years ago, reflexology was used in a diagnostic way. But in today's legal realm, that you just can't go there.
No.
But yeah, you can.
It makes sense, absolutely.
Like sometimes I'll be like, oh, do you still have your gallbladder? And the answer will be no. And the reason you can tell that is because you work the gallbladder reflex and your thumb just sinks into it. And that's usually a signal that the organ is no longer there. So there are things you can tell. You just kind of have to be careful how you communicate it and things like that. But I am sure that they were able to say, there's a little click in L2 and 3. And when you're working the spine reflex, you can feel things. And it's sometimes fun when you just say, hey, is everything okay in your back? Or you have any troubles in your lumbar area? And if they
it was like that.
Yeah. So, but it is kind of neat in that you can do that. You just kind of have to be careful how you communicate it.
Right.
My instructor had this cute saying. She goes, I'm not a doctor and I don't play one on TV. So she was very clear, and that's how she was like, if anybody asks me, that's what I say. I'm not a doctor and I don't play one on TV. So.
Oh, that's great. Okay, Barb, you had a question. Okay.
Yeah, I had a similar experience. I had it years ago, similar as Monica, press an area and I'd go, oh, and she'd say, oh, do you have kidney problems? And I was just amazed at all the different feelings in the foot.
Yeah.
But my question is, you said about asking how much training they have. So if you called, in Arizona, we have quite a few reflexology places. So if you just called, you can ask them for, shouldn't they all be certified at least?
Well, and certifications vary from state to state. So it depends on what state you're in. Some states require that a person be a massage therapist before they can do reflexology.
Oh.
Okay.
Other states allow you to certify singularly in reflexology. And so it just really depends on where you are and what state you're in. But there are, I would probably ask if they've gone through a certification course. Have they worked with an instructor, or did they do it all online? And that's not to say that somebody who takes a course online can't be very good at it. They can. But it's just a good question to know,
Oh, sure.
Where did they get their information? Where did they get their techniques? And how are they employing them? And then I would really, look if you need more, I would maybe look at their reviews and see what's happening there too, or see if they have clients you can talk to.
Right.
But, reflexology should not hurt. And if it does, then they need to back off a little bit. They're just exerting too much pressure for your foot. Now, that's not to say that if we find a sensitive spot, we might not work it, but there are ways to work it where you don't put the person on the ceiling. So.
Okay. That's good to know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The one that I had was it was some sort of Chinese reflexology. And the person that did it was, was trained with acupuncture, acupressure, and Chinese medicine.
Mm.
And they did tell me it would be painful. But I
And
haven't gone
Chinese
for, like,
torture.
yeah,
Say, what?
I haven't gone for foot massages with a pedicure.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
And sometimes I guess my feet must be sensitive, because even with that, there's times that to me I feel like I can't say it's painful, but I can't say it's totally relaxing.
Yeah.
So maybe
Not
I
a spa experience.
Well, I've had it, Julie, where it felt like my nerve was on fire. Have you? Yeah, where like, they're pushing and it just feels like a hot poker going into your foot at times.
Well, all I can say is if you were in my chair and you expressed that to me, I would, one, back off. And then I like to do a couple of things. There's energy in the palm of our hands. Sometimes I'll just place my palms over that side and then slowly work it to try to work some of that out. Because that is a signal that that reflex needs some attention.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how it gets attention. And we know now that a light stimulation of the nerve is as effective, if not more so effective, than a heavy press stimulation of the nerve. So that's why I say, it doesn't have to hurt.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to go in on somebody's reflexes and just really nail it and put them on the ceiling, because that puts them back in their stressed out nervous system, and that's
Right.
the last thing you want. You want that relaxation. So there are ways to counter that, and those are questions you could ask if you're inquiring about reflexology in your area. Call them up, ask, where's your training? Did you work with an instructor? If they get offended, then that tells you one thing right there. They shouldn't. That's kind of part of it. This is who I am, and this is what I've done. And then ask them, do you find that most clients feel like the sessions that you do on them hurt or are painful? Or tell me about what a session with one of your clients is like.
Mm-hmm.
And they should be able to answer that. So,
Awesome.
and if they can't, you might want to skip on to the next person.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I wish you lived close.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
getting
available to travel.
right.
You don't want to come to Phoenix right now.
No.
Oh,
Right.
true. Not without a mask.
Right.
I will say,
And the
I will say-
116 degrees.
Yeah.
oh gosh, yeah,
Right.
you're right.
Yeah.
I will say COVID has changed things right now.
Mhm.
And depending on your state, it just will depend on what's happening in your state as to how much a person can do in regard to reflexology. Like I said, I personally have kind of put a hold on the facial appointments, hands, and ears. And I
Mhm.
work primarily at the feet because I can stay masked. The person can be masked. And it's pretty darn close to 6 feet at
Mhm.
that.
Wonderful. Well, Julie, this was just absolutely fabulous, and we're just to the top of the hour, and we do pride ourselves on being a little Toastmaster-like and ending on time. So, everybody, this was so wonderful for all of you to be here and having our guests from all over joining us, some of them for the first time, which is great. Good to see you again, Teresa. Lovely to see you. And Julie, thank you so much. And everyone knows we record these. So if this is something you would like the recording, and I will also, all of you that have, that were here too, if you, I will get you Julie's information. If you need to reach out to her and want to ask her more questions, you'll be able to do that. So.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you, Julie.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Well,
Thank you. It was awesome.